Ever pondered why understanding the three branches of the US government is as crucial as knowing your own name? It's because our democracy is like a three-legged stool, where each leg symbolizes one of the three branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Just as each leg supports the stool, each branch plays a vital role in maintaining the stability of our nation. The stool falls if even one leg wavers, much like our democracy without the balance of its three branches. The first leg of this stool, the executive branch, carries the weight of enforcing laws. This branch, with the president at its helm, is tasked with implementing and enforcing the policies set by the government. The role of the executive is not to create or interpret laws, but to see them through to their execution. It's like the driving force, ensuring that the wheels of government policy keep turning. This branch does not legislate or interpret laws, but ensures their execution and adherence. The second leg, the legislative branch, is responsible for constructing the laws of the land. The heart of this branch is Congress, a bicameral body with two chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. These chambers work together, debate, and ultimately create the laws that govern our nation. They're the architects of our legal framework, sculpting policy into law. This branch weaves the fabric of our law, shaping our society with its legislative power. The third and final leg, the judicial branch, interprets the laws and ensures justice. Its duty is to apply and interpret the laws through an intricate court system, serving as the backbone of justice in our nation. At its apex, we have the Supreme Court, the highest federal court, which has the final say on matters of federal law. This branch ensures the laws stand the test of fairness and constitutional integrity, maintaining the balance of our three-legged stool of democracy. Have you ever wondered where the concept of a legislative branch originated? It's a tale that begins with the founding of the United States, as the architects of this new nation sought to create a government that was both effective and fair. At the heart of this mission was the U.S. Constitution, a revolutionary document that outlined the structure of American governance. This Constitution, penned in 1787, introduced a concept that was quite radical for its time: the separation of powers. The aim was to prevent any one entity from holding too much power, thereby safeguarding the nation from the tyranny they had just freed themselves from. This separation was split into three distinct branches: the executive, the judicial, and of course, the legislative. The legislative branch, also known as Congress, was given the responsibility of creating laws, a crucial function that shapes the lives of every American citizen. The idea of a legislative body wasn't entirely new. The framers of the Constitution drew inspiration from the Roman Republic, which had a Senate tasked with passing laws. But they also learned from the shortcomings of their own past, specifically the Articles of Confederation, which had given the states too much power and left the federal government weak and ineffective. In designing the legislative branch, they aimed to strike a balance. They wanted a body that represented the interests of the states, but also one that was strong enough to hold the nation together. Thus, they created a bicameral legislature consisting of the House of Representatives and the Senate. This dual structure allowed for representation based on population in the House, while the Senate provided equal representation for each state, irrespective of its size. The legislative branch was also given powers to check the other branches of government, such as the ability to impeach the president and approve Supreme Court appointments. This was all part of the delicate balance of power that the framers sought to create. Thus, the legislative branch was born, setting the stage for a democratic system that would echo through the centuries. The legislative branch is a two-headed creature, but why is that so? Well, let's dive into the details. The United States Congress is a bicameral body, meaning it's composed of two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. This two-pronged structure is no accident, but a calculated design by the founding fathers to balance power across the nation's diverse states and populations. Let's start with the Senate. It's the epitome of equal representation. No matter if you're from the sprawling plains of Texas or the compact cityscape of Rhode Island, each state has two senators. That's right, each state, regardless of its size or population, contributes the same voice to the Senate. This ensures that every state has equal footing in the legislative process. Now on to the House of Representatives. Here, the game changes. The number of representatives is not the same for all states. Instead, it's based on population. This is called proportional representation. The more people a state has, the more representatives it gets. In this way, the House ensures that the citizens of more populous states have their voices adequately represented. But how are these individuals chosen, you might ask? Well, both senators and representatives are elected by the people. Senators serve 6-year terms, while representatives serve 2-year terms. This system allows the citizens to have a say in who represents them and their interests in the nation's capital. So, what we have here is a delicate balance. The Senate, with its equal representation, ensures that all states, big or small, have an equal say. The House, with its proportional representation, ensures that the voices of the citizens are heard in proportion to their numbers. But it's not just about numbers and balance, it's about democracy in action. It's about ensuring that every American, regardless of where they live, has a voice in the laws that govern their lives. It's about checks and balances and the power of the people. In essence, these two chambers work together to ensure a balanced representation of all states and citizens. So, how does one end up in the Senate or the House of Representatives? Well, it all begins with the election process, a democratic practice deeply rooted in the American ethos. To qualify for a seat in the House, a candidate must be at least 25 years old, a U.S. citizen for a minimum of 7 years, and a resident of the state they wish to represent. Senators need to be slightly older, at least 30 years old, a U.S. citizen for 9 years or more, and like representatives, reside in the state they plan to represent. The path to the Capitol is paved with competitive elections. For the House of Representatives, elections occur every 2 years. All 435 seats are up for grabs, making it a fierce battlefield for both new entrants and incumbents. This biennial cycle ensures the House remains responsive to the changing perspectives and needs of the people. The Senate, on the other hand, operates on a 6-year term. However, these elections are staggered, meaning only a third of the 100 seats are contested every 2 years. This design provides the Senate with a sense of continuity, allowing for the steady progression of long-term legislative agendas. The general election process itself is a spectacle to behold. Candidates must first navigate the challenging terrain of primaries and caucuses within their own party. Once they secure their party's nomination, they face off against their opponents in a general election, where citizens cast their votes. The candidate with the highest number of votes wins the coveted seat, earning their place in the hallowed halls of the Capitol. But the journey doesn't end there. Once elected, these public servants must continuously engage with their constituents, address their concerns, and represent their interests in the legislature. It's a demanding role, requiring dedication, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to public service. Whether it's through a fiercely contested election or a smooth-sailing campaign, the road to Congress is a journey filled with twists and turns. It's a path trodden by the ambitious, the dedicated, and those resolute in their pursuit of serving their nation. Throughout history, the legislative branch has seen many notable figures. Who are they? Let's start with Henry Clay, popularly known as the Great Compromiser. Serving as Speaker of the House in the early 19th century, he crafted key compromises that kept the Union intact in the face of contentious issues like slavery. His political acumen and dedication to the Union underscore the vital role of negotiation and compromise in the legislative process. Then there's Jeannette Rankin, a trailblazer in her own right. In 1917, she became the first woman elected to the U.S. Congress, even before women had the right to vote nationwide. Her election was a significant stride towards gender equality in the legislative branch. Next, we can't overlook Lyndon B. Johnson, who served as Senate Majority Leader before becoming Vice President and later President. Known for his mastery of legislative procedure and his persuasive abilities, Johnson played a key role in the passage of civil rights legislation during his tenure in the Senate. And let's not forget about Daniel Inouye, a decorated World War II veteran and the first Japanese American to serve in Congress. Representing Hawaii in both the House and Senate for over 50 years, Inouye was a stalwart advocate for veterans, Native Hawaiians, and his home state. Finally, there's Nancy Pelosi, the first and only woman to serve as Speaker of the House. Pelosi has broken numerous glass ceilings in her career and has been instrumental in shaping legislation on issues ranging from healthcare to climate change. Of course, this is just a small sample of the countless individuals who have played pivotal roles in legislative history. Each one, with their unique perspectives and experiences, has contributed to the evolution of the legislative branch, shaping it into the dynamic, influential body it is today. These individuals have truly left an indelible mark on the history of the legislative branch. Their stories remind us of the power and potential of public service and the impact that dedicated, principled leaders can have on our nation's laws and policies. So how does a mere idea turn into a law? Let's dive into the intricate journey that transforms an idea into a piece of legislation. First things first, an idea needs a champion. This champion is usually a member of Congress, either from the Senate or the House of Representatives. They draft a bill, which is essentially a proposal for a new law or an amendment to an existing one. Once the bill is drafted, it's introduced in the Chamber of Congress where its champion resides. If it's a representative, it goes to the House, and if it's a senator, it goes to the Senate. A bill can be introduced in either chamber, except for those related to revenue, which must originate in the House. The bill then goes to a committee for review. Committees are specialized groups within each chamber that focus on specific policy areas. They are the workhorses of the legislative process, where the majority of the bill review and revision happens. The committee studies the bill, holds hearings, and may even ask for expert testimony to better understand its implications. After thorough examination, the committee votes on whether to send the bill to the full chamber. If the bill passes committee vote, it proceeds to the floor, where all members of the chamber can debate its merits. During the debate, members discuss the bill's pros and cons. They may suggest amendments or changes. After the debate, the chamber votes on the bill. If a simple majority votes in favor, the bill passes that chamber. But the journey doesn't end there. The bill must then go through the same process in the other chambers. It's introduced, assigned to a committee, debated, and eventually voted on. If both chambers pass the bill in the same form, it's almost there. Now the bill heads to the desk of the president. The president has three options: sign the bill into law, veto it, or do nothing. If the president signs it or does nothing for 10 days while Congress is in session, the bill becomes law. If the president vetoes the bill, it's not the end. Congress can override the veto with a 2/3 majority vote in both chambers. If successful, the bill becomes law despite the president's disapproval. That's the journey of a bill, a complex process that ensures every law is thoroughly scrutinized before it takes effect. It's a long, winding road from a simple idea to a signed law, but it's a testament to the checks and balances that make our legislative process robust and democratic. The legislative branch wields significant power, but what exactly can it do? A question that deserves a comprehensive answer. The legislative branch, composed of the Senate and the House of Representatives, has the ability to shape the nation through its numerous and significant powers. One of the most fundamental powers the legislative branch holds is the ability to pass laws. From the creation of national parks to the implementation of taxes, every law begins as a bill in either the Senate or the House of Representatives. The process is meticulous, involving several steps, discussions, amendments, and votes. Once both chambers approve a bill, it makes its way to the president's desk for the final signature. This power is the cornerstone of our democracy, allowing the people's representatives to enact change. But there's more to it than just passing laws. The legislative branch is also tasked with the weighty responsibility of declaring war. While the president is the commander-in-chief, it is Congress that holds the power to officially declare war. This power underscores the importance of checks and balances in our government, ensuring that such a consequential decision is not made by a single individual. Another critical power of the legislative branch is the ability to impeach federal officials, including the president. Impeachment is not a conviction, but rather, it's the equivalent of an indictment in criminal law. This means the official is essentially charged with misconduct. Following impeachment in the House of Representatives, the Senate then conducts a trial. If convicted, the official can be removed from office. And speaking of checks and balances, this system is at the heart of the legislative branch's powers. The framers of the Constitution designed this system to prevent any one branch of government from becoming too powerful. The legislative branch checks the executive branch by having the power to reject appointments, veto the president's legislation, and impeach the president. It checks the judicial branch by having the power to reject the appointment of judges and to impeach them. In turn, the legislative branch is checked by the other two branches. The executive branch can veto its legislation, and the judicial branch can declare its laws unconstitutional. This intricate system of checks and balances ensures that power is distributed and no one branch dominates. The legislative branch also has the power to approve appointments made by the president, including cabinet members, Supreme Court justices, and ambassadors. This further highlights the branch's influence in shaping the nation's policies and direction. The power to manage the nation's finances is another crucial duty of the legislative branch. It's responsible for laying and collecting taxes, borrowing money on behalf of the United States, and regulating commerce with foreign nations. As we can see, the legislative branch holds a pivotal role in shaping the nation. Its powers are extensive and profound, shaping our daily lives, influencing international relations, and ensuring the balance of power in our government. The legislative branch, through its many responsibilities, truly embodies the essence of representative democracy. In today's political climate, where does the legislative branch stand? A question that echoes in the minds of many. Our legislative branch, composed of the Senate and the House of Representatives, is a dynamic entity, constantly shifting and evolving with the political tides. In its current state, the legislative branch is a vibrant tapestry of diverse ideologies. It's a melting pot of different perspectives from all corners of the country, each representative bringing to the table their unique viewpoints. This diversity is not just in ideological beliefs, but also in terms of age, race, and gender, making it a truly representative body of the American people. The political composition of the legislative branch is a delicate balance, a dance between cooperation and competition. As parties jostle for influence and power, the legislative branch becomes a battleground for policy decisions. Yet, it's also a place of collaboration where lawmakers find common ground to pass legislation that impacts the lives of millions of Americans. The key issues that the legislative branch grapples with are as diverse as the lawmakers themselves, from economic policy, healthcare and education to foreign relations, climate change and civil rights. The legislative branch covers a broad spectrum of issues. Each decision, each bill passed, is a reflection of the ongoing public discourse, a manifestation of the nation's collective aspirations and concerns. Despite the challenges, the legislative branch is not a static entity. It's a living, breathing organism that evolves with the changing times. As the nation's political landscape shifts, so too does the legislative branch. It adapts, morphs, and transforms, always striving to better represent the diverse voices of the American people. In essence, the legislative branch is a microcosm of our nation. It's where our differences and commonalities converge, where our collective voice takes shape, and where the destiny of our nation is charted. The legislative branch continues to evolve, reflecting the ever-changing political landscape of our nation. What lies ahead for the legislative branch? As we look forward, the legislative branch of the United States government faces a future filled with potential challenges and changes. One of the key challenges remains maintaining the balance of power. The legislative branch is designed to be a check against the executive and judicial branches, but this equilibrium can be tested as political dynamics shift. It is essential for our democracy that the legislative branch continues to uphold its responsibilities, no matter the pressures it might face. Another potential challenge is the rapidly evolving technology. As we've seen, the digital age has transformed how we live, work, and even govern. The legislative branch must adapt to these changes, understanding new technologies and considering their implications on legislation. From issues of data privacy to the regulation of artificial intelligence, it's clear that the future of legislation will need to keep pace with the speed of innovation. The future also holds the possibility of changes to the legislative branch itself. There's ongoing debate about possible amendments to the Constitution that could affect how the branch operates. For example, discussions around term limits for members of Congress or changing the number of senators each state has. These are not light considerations and require thorough deliberation and public input. And that brings us to perhaps the most crucial point, the role of the people in shaping the future of the legislative branch. It's easy to think of government as something separate from us, but in truth, it's a reflection of our collective will. We, the people, elect our representatives. We voice our opinions, express our concerns, and yes, we even protest when we believe it's necessary. So the future of the legislative branch isn't just about what happens in the halls of Congress. It's about what happens in our homes, our schools, our workplaces, and our communities. It's about staying informed, asking tough questions, and participating in the democratic process. The future of the legislative branch is in our hands. It's up to us to shape it. So let's circle back to our original question. Why does the legislative branch matter? Well, we've journeyed through its birth, seen its evolution, and delved into its current state. We've met the Senate and the House of Representatives, the two chambers that form the backbone of this branch. We've traversed the path that leads to the Capitol, understanding the electoral process which allows us, the citizens, to choose our representatives. We've paid homage to notable figures who've left their indelible marks on legislative history. We've navigated the intricate process of how a bill becomes a law, understanding the checks and balances that ensure fairness and justice. We've seen the power of the legislative branch, its role in making laws, and its influence in shaping our nation's policies. The legislative branch, the embodiment of democracy, is a testament to the vision of our forefathers who believed in the power of the people. It's the branch that represents us, the everyday people, in the hall of power. It's the mechanism through which we voice our concerns, express our needs, and influence the direction our nation takes. In our exploration of the present state of the legislative branch, we've seen its challenges and triumphs, its disputes and resolutions. We've looked into the future, speculated on the potential changes, and the enduring role of this branch in upholding the democratic values we hold dear. So you see, the legislative branch isn't some abstract concept confined to textbooks. It is dynamic, it is real, and it is crucial. It is the embodiment of our collective voice, the reflection of our diverse perspectives, and the instrument of our common will. Remember, the legislative branch is not just a part of history. It's an integral part of our lives. Be informed, be involved, and help shape the future of our nation. Ever wondered about the sheer magnitude of power wielded by the executive branch of the U.S. government? This isn't just about a single man or woman sitting in the Oval Office, but a complex network of agencies, departments, and offices, each with its own role in steering the course of the nation. Imagine a colossal machine, intricate and vast, its gears and cogs tirelessly turning to govern over 300 million lives. This is the executive branch, an entity that extends far beyond the president, the vice president, and the cabinet. It's an enigma, a puzzle that, once solved, reveals the inner workings of our nation's governance. The executive branch is the guardian of law and order, the custodian of our national security, the driver of our economy, and the face of our nation on the world stage. Its influence permeates every aspect of American life, from the air we breathe to the food on our tables, from our personal liberties to our collective prosperity. But how did this branch of government gain such extensive reach and power? What historical events and decisions shaped its evolution? And most importantly, how does it maintain a balance of power with the legislative and judicial branches? These are not just questions for the politically curious, but for every American citizen. For understanding the executive branch is key to comprehending the intricate dance of democracy, the delicate balance of powers that keeps our nation moving forward. The executive branch has been at the helm during some of the most pivotal moments in our nation's history, from the throes of the Civil War to the depths of the Great Depression, from the height of the Cold War to the challenges of the 21st century. It has witnessed triumphs and tragedies, victories and defeats, periods of peace and times of turmoil. It's a story of power and responsibility, of leadership and accountability, of the nation itself, and one that continues to unfold with each passing day. Stay tuned as we unravel the history and power of the executive branch. The executive branch didn't just appear, it was born out of necessity. Let's rewind to the late 18th century, 1787 to be exact. The United States was a fledgling nation, fresh from the throes of the Revolutionary War. The leaders of the time were faced with a monumental task: constructing a new system of governance. They needed to strike a balance, a system sturdy enough to hold the nation together, yet flexible enough to prevent the rise of a tyrant. And they found their answer in the Constitution. The Constitution, signed and sealed in that pivotal year, was not just a document. It was a blueprint for a new order, a roadmap to uncharted territory. It marked the birth of the three branches of government: the the legislative, the judicial, and, of course, the executive. The executive branch was conceived to enforce the laws enacted by the legislative branch. Its creation was a direct response to the chaotic years under the Articles of Confederation, where a lack of a strong central authority had left the nation in a state of disarray. The framers realized the need for an entity with enough power and authority to maintain order, but not so much as to risk despotism. The initial structure of the executive branch was simple, with the president at its helm. The president was to be assisted by a handful of advisors, known as the cabinet. Together, they were tasked with executing the laws of the land, guiding the nation's foreign policy, and leading the military. The executive branch was not an afterthought, not a byproduct of some grander design. It was a deliberate creation, a calculated move. It was the result of careful thought, intense debate, and a profound understanding of the delicate balance of power. Thus began the journey of the executive branch, with a defined purpose and structure. The Constitution was not vague about the powers of the executive branch. Indeed, the United States Constitution, the blueprint of our democracy, spells out in Article 2 the powers and duties of the executive branch, the presidency. It's a masterful piece of work, balancing the need for strong leadership with the necessity to prevent tyranny. The executive power is vested in the president, who is charged with faithfully executing the laws of the land. This duty is broad, covering everything from enforcing federal law to appointing public officials. You might say the president is the nation's top cop, ensuring that the laws passed by Congress are upheld and carried out. The president also serves as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. While Congress has the power to declare war, the president has the authority to direct military action. This power has been the subject of much debate and controversy, especially in times of conflict. Then there's the power to negotiate treaties with foreign nations. However, these treaties must be ratified by 2/3 of the Senate, a check and balance built into the system to prevent the executive from having too much sway in foreign affairs. The president also has the power to grant pardons for federal offenses, excluding impeachment. A controversial power, you might say, because it allows the president to essentially forgive crimes, a power that has been both praised for its mercy and criticized for its potential for abuse. The power to appoint judges, ambassadors, and other high-ranking officials is another significant power vested in the president. These appointments can shape the course of the nation for years, even decades, beyond the president's term. Throughout history, these powers have been interpreted and applied in myriad ways. For instance, the power to faithfully execute the laws has been stretched to include executive orders, which are directives issued by the president that manage operations of the federal government. The legal or constitutional authority for executive orders comes from the implied executive power within the Constitution, but there's no specific provision that authorizes them, and this has been a matter of ongoing debate. The commander-in-chief power has also been tested. Presidents have often taken military actions without explicit war declarations from Congress, raising questions about the limits of this power. And the power to grant pardons? It's been used with varying degrees of controversy by presidents throughout history, from Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon to Bill Clinton's pardon of financier Mark Rich. The powers of the executive branch, as defined by the Constitution, are considerable, yet they are not absolute. They are checked by the legislative and judicial branches, and ultimately by the people through the power of the vote. But one thing is clear, the powers of the executive branch, though outlined, have always been subject to interpretation. Power, they say, is nothing without control. Let's see how this control played out in history. In the centuries since the inception of the United States, the executive branch has consistently flexed its muscles, often in the face of significant challenges. Let's delve into two instances that exemplify the historical exercise of executive powers. First, we'll travel back to the mid-19th century, to the throes of the Civil War. The year was 1862, and the man in the executive chair was none other than Abraham Lincoln. The divide between the North and the South had reached a breaking point, and the nation was torn asunder by a war over the institution of slavery. Amidst the war's chaos, Lincoln wielded the power of the executive branch to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. This was a daring move, one that fundamentally altered the war's trajectory and the nation's future. It declared that all enslaved persons in the Confederate-held territories were to be set free. This did not immediately end slavery, but it was a significant step towards the abolition of this inhuman practice. It was a bold exercise of executive power that forever changed the course of American history. Fast forward to the 20th century, to the era of the Great Depression. The year was 1933, and the man steering the executive ship was Franklin D. Roosevelt. The United States was in the grip of an economic crisis like never before. Millions were unemployed, businesses were shuttered, and a sense of despair hung heavy in the air. In response, Roosevelt launched the New Deal, a series of programs and projects aimed at providing relief for the unemployed, recovery of the economy, and reforms to prevent another depression. The New Deal was a testimony to the executive branch's ability to take decisive action in a national crisis. It was a bold use of executive power that not only pulled the United States out of its economic quagmire, but also reshaped the social and economic fabric of the nation. In both these instances, the executive branch, under the leadership of Lincoln and Roosevelt, showcased the power and potential of the executive office. They stepped up, took decisive action, and altered the course of history. They made tough decisions in the face of adversity, decisions that were not always popular but were necessary for the greater good of the nation. These historical flexes of power underscore the immense responsibility and potential of the executive branch. They remind us that the executive branch, at its best, is a force for positive change, for progress, and for upholding the values that define the United States. In the face of adversity, the executive branch has often stepped up, showcasing the extent of its powers. The executive branch continues to evolve, adapting to the needs of the nation. It's a living, breathing entity, constantly reshaping itself to meet the demands of an ever-changing world. The current structure of the executive branch, much like a well-oiled machine, is a complex system of interlocking parts. At its helm is the President, the Chief Executive Officer of the United States, whose authority and responsibilities have significantly expanded over the years. Supporting the President is the Vice President, followed by the cabinet members, each heading different departments responsible for various aspects of national governance. Over time, the executive branch's powers have both expanded and contracted, reflective of the nation's needs and societal shifts. During times of crisis, such as the Great Depression or the aftermath of the September 11th attacks, the executive branch has seen its powers surge, using this authority to enact policies for the country's recovery. Yet in periods of relative stability, we've seen these powers contract as checks and balances come into play. This ebb and flow of power is a testament to the system's flexibility and the executive branch's ability to adapt to changing circumstances. In recent times, the executive branch has played a pivotal role in navigating complex international relations, managing the economy, and addressing pressing social issues. It has grappled with the challenges of the digital age, evolving threats to national security, and the ongoing dialogue around social justice. The executive branch today is not just a mechanism for implementing laws. It is a driving force behind policymaking, a mediator in international disputes, a guardian of the economy, and an advocate for social change. In essence, the executive branch is the steering wheel of the ship that is the United States. Its role is not static but dynamic, shaped by the winds of change, the currents of public opinion, and the captain at its helm. The executive branch today stands as a testament to its enduring relevance and adaptability. It continues to evolve, proving its resilience and capacity to meet the challenges of a complex, rapidly changing world. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, but in the U.S. government, no branch operates in isolation. The American system of governance is a well-oiled machine, fine-tuned for balance and fairness. One of its key components is the system of checks and balances that ensures no single branch becomes too powerful. This system has been the bedrock of American democracy for more than 2 centuries. Now, let's delve into how it works to keep the executive branch, the president, and their cabinet in check. The legislative branch, comprising the Senate and the House of Representatives, plays a significant role in this. They're the ones who create the laws. The president can suggest laws, but ultimately it's Congress that has to pass them. The legislative branch also holds the power of the purse strings. This means they control government spending. So if the president has big plans that require a lot of money, they need to get Congress on board. The legislative branch can also flex its muscle through impeachment. a power used sparingly but effectively to check any potential misuse of executive power. Now, let's not forget the judicial branch, the Supreme Court and other federal courts. They have the power of judicial review, which means they can declare a law or executive action unconstitutional. This serves as a potent check on the executive branch, ensuring that the president and their administration operate within the confines of the Constitution. It's a brilliantly designed system, a delicate dance of power and restraint. The executive branch holds significant authority, but it's tempered by the legislative and judicial branches, ensuring a balance of power that is quintessentially American. This system of checks and balances has shaped American history and continues to define its present. It's a testament to the wisdom of the Founding Fathers, who understood the perils of unchecked power and crafted a constitution that guards against it. The checks and balances ensure that the executive branch, powerful as it may be, is kept in line. The executive branch, as we've seen, has a weighty role in the functioning of the U.S. government. Its inception, born out of the need for decisive action and a single unified voice, was a calculated risk taken by the Founding Fathers. This risk, though debated and scrutinized, has shaped the trajectory of the nation in myriad ways. The powers vested in the executive branch are vast and sweeping. The president, as the chief executive, has the authority to enforce laws, command the military, negotiate treaties, and appoint key officials. But as we've seen throughout history, the interpretation and application of these powers have evolved, often expanding during times of crisis or war. We've glanced back at historical moments where the executive flexed its might, from Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation during the Civil War to Roosevelt's New Deal in the wake of the Great Depression, and even to more recent times with the War on Terror. We've seen how the executive branch has been a catalyst for change and action. But we've also seen the importance of checks and balances in the system. The executive may be powerful, but it does not stand alone. The legislative and judicial branches provide a necessary counterbalance, ensuring that no single entity becomes too powerful. This interplay, this tug of war, is what defines the American system of government. In the present day, the executive branch continues to navigate an ever-changing landscape, grappling with new challenges and complexities. Whether it's addressing climate change, managing global pandemics, or navigating geopolitical tensions, the executive branch remains a pivotal player in the American story. While the executive branch wields immense power, it is the balance of this power that truly embodies the spirit of democracy. It is a testament to the foresight of the Founding Fathers, a tribute to the resilience of the American people, and a beacon of hope for the future. The power and the glory of the executive branch, then, is not just in its authority, but in its commitment to the principles upon which this great nation was built. We start our journey in the late 18th century, when the Founding Fathers of the United States created a new form of government. They envisioned a system that would ensure checks and balances, a system that would prevent the concentration of power in a single entity. To achieve this, they divided the government into three branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. The judicial branch, the focus of our journey, was born out of the Judiciary Act of 1789. This act, an early and significant piece of legislation, established the Supreme Court and the federal judiciary system. It was a bold move, a testament to the innovative thinking of the Founding Fathers. They recognized that, for a democracy to function effectively, there needed to be a body that would interpret the law and ensure its fair application. Key figures in the creation of this branch were George Washington, then the president, and Alexander Hamilton, who was the Secretary of the Treasury. Washington signed the Judiciary Act into law, and Hamilton was one of its most vocal supporters. Hamilton, in his Federalist Papers, argued passionately for a strong and independent judiciary. He saw it as a safeguard against potential abuses of power by the other branches of government. The Supreme Court, as established by the Judiciary Act, consisted of a Chief Justice and 5 Associate Justices. This was the beginning of a judicial body that would shape American history in ways the Founding Fathers could not have entirely predicted. So, there we have it. In the late 18th century, amidst a sea of change, the judicial branch was born. Its creation was a bold experiment, a leap of faith into uncharted territory. It was a testament to the vision and courage of the Founding Fathers, who dared to imagine a system that would ensure justice and uphold the principles of democracy. Thus, the first stone was laid for the judicial branch, a cornerstone of the American democratic system. The first few years of the judicial branch were marked by significant events and landmark decisions. The year 1789 saw the appointment of the first Chief Justice of the United States, John Jay. A man of great intellect and integrity, Jay set the bar high for those who would follow in his footsteps. His tenure, though relatively short, was marked by significant decisions that would shape the course of American history. One of the first cases heard by the Supreme Court was Chisholm v. Georgia, a dispute that arose in 1793. The court's decision in this case opened the door for individuals to sue states, a right that was later limited by the 11th Amendment. However, it was the case of Marbury versus Madison in 1803 that truly marked a turning point for the judicial branch. This case revolved around a simple question: does the Supreme Court have the authority to declare laws unconstitutional? The answer, affirmed by Chief Justice John Marshall, was a resounding yes. This case established the principle of judicial review, granting the Supreme Court the power to interpret the Constitution and determine the constitutionality of laws enacted by Congress. This power of judicial review has played a pivotal role in shaping the United States as we know it today. It has allowed the Supreme Court to check the powers of the other branches of government and ensure that our laws align with the principles outlined in the Constitution. In the years that followed, the Supreme Court continued to hear cases that challenged the boundaries of its power and the interpretation of the Constitution. These cases tested the mettle of the justices and set important precedents that still guide the court's decisions today. These early years set the tone for the evolution of the judicial branch. The decisions made during this period helped to define the role of the Supreme Court in American society and establish the judicial branch as a co-equal branch of government, capable of checking and balancing the powers of the legislative and executive branches. As the nation grew, so did the Supreme Court, both in size and in influence. The Supreme Court we know today didn't always consist of 9 justices. Initially, the Judiciary Act of 1789 set the number to a modest 6. However, as the country expanded westward, the need for more federal circuit courts, and consequently more Supreme Court justices to preside over them, became apparent. By the mid-19th century, the court had grown to include a total of 10 justices. But the Supreme Court's growth was more than just numerical. It was during this period that the court began to assert its power and influence over American law and society. Landmark decisions started to define the contours of the nation's identity. Take, for instance, the infamous Dred Scott v. Sanford case of 1857. The court ruled that a man enslaved in a free state could not sue for his freedom because, as a person of African descent, he was not a citizen under the U.S. Constitution. This decision ignited a fierce debate over slavery and citizenship that played a significant role in sparking the Civil War. Then came Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896, another landmark case that left a profound mark on the American legal landscape. The court upheld racial segregation under the doctrine of separate but equal, a decision that sanctioned racial discrimination for more than half a century before it was overturned. These cases, among others, demonstrate not just the Supreme Court's growing influence, but also its ability to shape and reflect the struggles and tensions within American society. As the highest court in the land, its rulings have the power to redefine the nation's laws, principles, and even its identity. Through its decisions, the Supreme Court started to shape the nation's identity. And as we continue to explore the court's evolution and impact, we'll see how this institution continues to play a pivotal role in the American narrative. The 20th century brought the Supreme Court into the limelight, making it a key player in American politics and society. As the court evolved, it was shaped by influential justices like Earl Warren and Thurgood Marshall, who left indelible marks on American jurisprudence. Earl Warren, a former governor of California, served as Chief Justice from 1953 to 1969. His tenure was marked by a series of progressive rulings that expanded civil liberties and the rights of the accused. Warren's court was instrumental in landmark decisions, including the infamous Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, which declared racial segregation in public schools unconstitutional. This ruling was a watershed moment in the civil rights movement, setting the stage for future legislation that would dismantle the structure of legal segregation. Thurgood Marshall, the first African-American justice, was another influential figure who played a pivotal role in shaping the court's progressive stance. Before his appointment to the bench, Marshall was an accomplished civil rights lawyer who successfully argued the Brown v. Board case. As a justice, he continued to champion equal rights, leaving a lasting legacy that continues to influence the court. The court's influence extended beyond civil rights. The landmark case of Roe v. Wade, decided in 1973, recognized a woman's constitutional right to have an abortion. This decision, while controversial, underscored the court's role in shaping societal norms and sparked ongoing debates about the boundaries of personal liberty and state interest. The 20th century transformed the Supreme Court from a relatively obscure institution into a powerful actor on the national stage. Its decisions on civil rights, individual liberties, and societal norms have had far-reaching impacts, shaping the contours of American life and defining the nation's understanding of its fundamental values. The Supreme Court became not just a judicial body, but also a powerful social force. Today, the Supreme Court continues to play a pivotal role in American life. 9 justices, each with their unique backgrounds and ideologies, sit on the bench of the highest court in the land. Their decisions, rooted in a deep interpretation of the Constitution, shape the American narrative in profound ways. Chief Justice John Roberts, a conservative appointed by President George W. Bush, is known for his pragmatism and negotiation skills. He's often the swing vote in contentious cases, striving for consensus among the justices. Coming from a background in corporate law, Roberts brings a keen understanding of economic issues to the court. The court's longest-serving justice, Clarence Thomas, brings a conservative originalist perspective seeking to interpret the Constitution as its framers intended. He's known for his silence during oral arguments, preferring to express his views through his written opinions. On the more liberal end of the spectrum, we have Justice Sonia Sotomayor, the first Latina justice. She's known for her empathetic approach to the law, often voicing concerns about the impact of court decisions on ordinary citizens. Recent landmark decisions have further underscored the court's impact. The ruling in Obergefell v. Hodges, for instance, ensured the right to same-sex marriage nationwide. Meanwhile, the decision in Citizens United v. Federal Election Commission reshaped American politics by allowing corporations to spend unlimited amounts on political campaigns. The Supreme Court, however, is not without controversy. The court's decision in Shelby County v. Holder, which struck down key aspects of the Voting Rights Act, has sparked a nationwide debate about voting rights and racial discrimination. These decisions, among others, have far-reaching effects, shaping the contours of American life. They touch on everything from individual rights and liberties to the balance of power between the federal government and the states, to the nature of our democracy itself. The Supreme Court remains a key pillar of American democracy, its decisions echoing far beyond the courtroom. While the Supreme Court often steals the limelight, the lower federal courts are equally important. Let's dive into the world of lower courts, a place where much of the judicial magic happens. These courts, much like the unsung heroes of any story, handle the vast majority of federal cases yet don't always get the recognition they deserve. The lower courts are structured into 2 main types: the district courts, which are the trial courts of the federal system, and the courts of appeals, the intermediate appellate courts. The district courts, 94 in total, are scattered across the country, each serving a specific geographic area. Here, both civil and criminal cases are heard, with judges and often juries deciding the outcomes. These courts are the first to interpret and apply federal laws in individual cases, making them the workhorses of the judicial system. Then, we have the courts of appeals. These are grouped into 12 regional circuits, plus a federal circuit that hears specialized cases. Their primary role? Reviewing decisions made in the district courts. They ensure that the law has been applied correctly and that the rights of the parties have been protected. Over the years, these lower courts have been instrumental in shaping the legal landscape. For instance, the district court for the Northern District of California played a crucial role in the antitrust case against Microsoft in the late 90s. That decision shaped the tech landscape for years to come. In another landmark case, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the conviction of Sirhan Sirhan, the man who assassinated Robert F. Kennedy. This decision underscored the commitment of our courts to uphold justice, even in the face of high-profile and emotionally charged cases. These are just a few examples that highlight the critical role that these lower courts play, often away from the public eye. They are the first line of defense in upholding the principles of justice and fairness that are at the heart of our judicial system. The lower courts are the unsung heroes of the judicial branch, handling the vast majority of federal cases. The judicial branch is the guardian of the Constitution, interpreting its words and applying them to modern issues. The Constitution, the supreme law of the land, serves as the blueprint for American governance. It's the judicial branch, however, that interprets this historical document, ensuring its relevance in our ever-evolving society. In the grand theater of the United States government, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of the Constitution. Each justice, appointed for life, carries the weighty responsibility of interpreting the Constitution's complex language and applying it to the cases that come before them. Their decisions are not made in a vacuum. They're influenced by the justices' understanding of the Constitution, modern societal norms, and their individual philosophies. While the Constitution's text remains constant, interpretations can and do change over time, reflecting the evolving values of the American people. Take, for instance, the landmark 1954 case, Brown v. Board of Education. The Supreme Court unanimously ruled that racial segregation in public schools was unconstitutional, overturning the separate but equal precedent set by Plessy v. Ferguson nearly 6 decades earlier. This shift in interpretation led to monumental changes in American society, demonstrating the power of the judicial branch to shape the course of history. In the 21st century, we've seen this interpretive power in action with cases like Obergefell v. Hodges, where the court ruled that the Constitution guarantees the right to same-sex marriage, reflecting a broader societal acceptance of LGBTQ+ rights. However, these interpretations are not without controversy. Critics argue that the court sometimes oversteps its role, making law instead of interpreting it. Yet, others see this as an essential function of the court, necessary to adapt the Constitution to the changing times. In the end, it's the balance between the justices' interpretations, the text of the Constitution, and the will of the people that shapes our nation's course. The Constitution is a living document, and the judicial branch is its steward. As we look to the future, the judicial branch faces new challenges and opportunities. In a world that's constantly evolving, the judicial branch must too. It must adapt to the changing landscape, addressing issues that our founding fathers could hardly have imagined. One such challenge is the digital age, a realm of cybercrime, data privacy, and artificial intelligence that's largely uncharted in terms of legal precedent. Cybercrimes, for instance, pose a unique problem. How do we prosecute hackers when they can cause harm from halfway around the globe? What are the limits of jurisdiction in a world where the internet knows no borders? And how do we balance the need for cybersecurity with the rights to privacy and freedom of expression? These are questions that the judicial branch will need to tackle head-on. Then, there's the issue of artificial intelligence. As AI continues to advance, we're forced to grapple with questions of legal responsibility. If a self-driving car causes an accident, who's to blame? The manufacturer, the software developer, the owner of the vehicle, the car itself. It's a whole new ballgame, and it's up to the judicial branch to set the rules. Beyond technology, societal norms are also shifting, and with them, our interpretation of the law. Issues like climate change, LGBTQ+ rights, and racial equity are becoming increasingly prominent, and the judicial branch will have to reflect these changes in its rulings. It's a delicate balancing act to uphold the Constitution while also recognizing the evolving values of society. The future of the judicial branch is certainly not set in stone. It will have to navigate these challenges and many more, constantly reinterpreting the Constitution in light of new information and societal changes. It's a process that's as dynamic as the world it operates in. Only time will tell how the judicial branch will navigate these uncharted waters. As we wrap up our journey, let's reflect on the immense impact of the judicial branch. From its humble beginnings, the judicial branch has grown into a pillar of the American democratic system, shaping law and society in ways that are both profound and far-reaching. In the early days of the nation, the judicial branch was but a small part of the government, its role and responsibilities yet to be defined. But as the nation grew, so too did the judicial branch, evolving and adapting to the changing needs of society. The landmark case of Marbury versus Madison in the early 19th century marked a turning point, establishing the principle of judicial review and setting the stage for the transformative role the judicial branch would play in the years to come. Over the centuries, the judicial branch, embodied by the Supreme Court, has been the final arbiter of the law, interpreting the Constitution in the light of changing times and circumstances. It has made decisions that have had profound effects on American life. From the landmark Brown versus Board of Education ruling that ended racial segregation in schools to the Roe versus Wade decision that affirmed a woman's right to choose. In recent history, figures like Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Chief Justice John Roberts have left indelible marks on the judicial branch, shaping its direction and influencing its decisions. Their contributions, and those of their peers, serve as a reminder of the human element in the judicial process and the profound impact that individual justices can have on the law and society. In the lower courts, too, judges play a crucial role, interpreting and applying the law in a myriad of cases, their decisions often setting precedents that impact the lives of countless Americans. Looking to the future, the judicial branch will continue to play a pivotal role in shaping American law and society. Its decisions will reflect the changing values and needs of the nation, shaping and being shaped by the societal currents of the time. The judicial branch, though often overlooked, is a fundamental part of the American democratic system. The judicial branch is a testament to the wisdom of the Founding Fathers and their vision of a balanced government. This intricate system of checks and balances that they so astutely crafted has been the backbone of American democracy for centuries. It's easy to overlook the judicial branch in the hustle and bustle of our daily lives. We often forget that this unseen entity works tirelessly behind the scenes, ensuring that our rights and freedoms are protected. But it's these very courts, this very branch, that has shaped and continues to shape the world we live in. In recent history, we've seen figures like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sonia Sotomayor, and Brett Kavanaugh take their places in the Supreme Court. Each of them, regardless of our personal beliefs or political leanings, has made significant contributions to the course of American jurisprudence. And it's not just about the people who sit on the bench, it's also about the landmark cases they've presided over. Cases like Brown v. Board of Education, Roe v. Wade, and Obergefell v. Hodges have irrevocably altered the social, political, and cultural landscape of our nation. They've redefined our understanding of equality, liberty, and justice. But the judicial branch is not just a relic of the past. It is a living, breathing entity that continues to evolve with the times. It's a reflection of our society, a mirror that reveals our triumphs and our failures, our hopes and our fears. It is in many ways an embodiment of our collective conscience. So it's important to understand and appreciate the role of the judicial branch in our lives. It's important to remember that this branch of government is not some distant, abstract concept. It's a vital part of our democracy, a cornerstone of our freedom. As we navigate our own lives, let's remember the impact of the judicial branch on our freedoms and rights. It's a testament to our past, a guide for our present, and a beacon for our future. What will the U.S. government look like in the next 50 years? This question, both intriguing and a tad unnerving, is one we find ourselves asking more and more. As we stand here amidst the whirlwind of political discourse and change, it's difficult not to ponder the future. The United States government, with its triad of power, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches, holds the reins of our nation's trajectory. Each of these branches, while distinct in their roles, are interwoven in the fabric of our democracy. They create a system of checks and balances, ensuring one does not overpower the other. In the current political climate, their importance is underscored, their actions closely scrutinized. But what of the future? What role will they play in the America of tomorrow? Our journey today will explore the potential future of these three branches and their role in shaping America's tomorrow. Imagine the year 2074 with a president leading the nation, but how different might this role be? fast forward 50 years into the future, where the executive branch of the United States government still stands as one of the three pillars of American democracy. The president, the face of this branch, continues to hold immense power, but the nature of that power may have evolved dramatically. Presidential powers, traditionally categorized into two kinds, expressed and inherent, might have undergone significant changes. The expressed powers, those explicitly defined in the Constitution, could have been reshaped by amendments or landmark Supreme Court decisions. The inherent powers, those necessary to carry out expressed powers, might have expanded or retracted, responding to the challenges of a changing world. The role of the president, too, might have transformed. In a world increasingly connected through technology, the president may have become a more prominent global figure. The responsibilities of this role could extend beyond borders, making the president not just a national leader, but a global one. The influence of the president, always a subject of debate, might have shifted as well. The balance of power between the three branches of government is a dynamic dance, and the executive branch, led by the president, could have gained or lost ground. This influence might be shaped by factors such as public opinion, the political climate, or even the rise of new technologies. Challenges, reforms, and improvements could be the defining themes of the executive branch's future. The institution might face challenges from an increasingly polarized political landscape or global crises. Reforms could be driven by the need for greater transparency, accountability, or efficiency, and improvements might come in the form of technological advancements, leading to better decision-making or increased public engagement. The executive branch, ever evolving, holds an unpredictable yet pivotal role in America's future. As we move forward, we can only speculate on the transformations that await, but one thing remains certain. The executive branch will continue to shape and be shaped by the course of American history. The United States Congress, a bastion of democracy, but what could its future hold? In the years to come, the legislative branch, the heart of our nation's lawmaking process, could undergo significant transformations. Imagine a future where the structure of Congress changes, perhaps expanding to better represent the growing population. More representatives mean more voices heard, a true embodiment of a democracy. Additionally, the future could see changes in the function of the legislative branch. Traditionally, Congress has been responsible for creating laws. But what if, in the future, it takes on a more active role in executing those laws, working hand in hand with the executive branch to ensure the smooth running of the nation? This could redefine the separation of powers, creating a more collaborative and efficient government. Influence, too, could shift. In the age of social media and instant communication, the legislative branch might become more directly accountable to the people. We could see more referendums and citizen-led initiatives, giving constituents a more direct say in the laws that govern them. However, this future is not without its challenges. The greater the number of representatives, the more complex the decision-making process becomes. Would this lead to a more robust debate, or could it result in legislative gridlock? And with the potential for Congress to take on more roles, the question of checks and balances comes into play. How would we ensure one branch doesn't overpower the others? There's also the question of reforms and improvements. Could we see term limits for Congress members, an idea often proposed to keep the legislative branch fresh and dynamic? Or perhaps a move towards more digital and remote working, a trend accelerated by the global pandemic. The future of the legislative branch, like any aspect of government, is hard to predict. But one thing is certain. As long as there are laws to be made, the legislative branch will play a crucial role in shaping the direction of our nation. Our courts, the guardians of the Constitution, yet what will they guard in the future? Let's take a step into the unknown, the future of the judicial branch, a realm where the scales of justice may balance new weights and the gavel may fall on novel disputes. The judicial branch, a cornerstone of our democracy, may face potential changes in its role, function, and influence as we journey further into the future. In the years to come, we might see a shift in the dynamics of the Supreme Court, with a possibility of court packing or term limits becoming a reality. Imagine a Supreme Court where justices serve for a set number of years, rather than for life. This could introduce a wave of fresh perspectives and mitigate the influence of any single justice, shaping a more balanced and dynamic court. As technology continues to evolve at a lightning pace, The judicial branch could be called upon to interpret laws related to emerging tech, like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and genetic engineering. These cutting-edge fields could present uncharted legal challenges, requiring the courts to adapt and evolve in their understanding and interpretation of the law. Reforms may also become necessary to address issues of accessibility and efficiency. Virtual courtrooms and online dispute resolution platforms could become the norm, making justice more accessible to all citizens. However, these technological advancements may also bring about new ethical and legal challenges, requiring careful navigation. The judicial branch could also play a crucial role in climate change litigation, as environmental issues become increasingly prominent. Courts might need to grapple with complex cases related to climate change, potentially influencing policy and prompting large-scale action. The path to the future is not without obstacles. The judicial branch will likely face challenges, be it partisan divides, public mistrust, or the daunting task of interpreting laws in an ever-evolving society. Yet these trials could also serve as catalysts for growth and innovation, propelling the judicial branch into a future that is more inclusive, adaptive, and forward-thinking. The judicial branch, the last word in law, could face unprecedented evolution in the future. The roles of Trump and Biden have been significant in shaping the current political climate. But what were their biggest challenges? Let's delve into the trials and tribulations that both these leaders faced during their presidencies, and how these hurdles might shape the fabric of the U.S. government in the years to come. Donald Trump, the 45th president, took office in a time of economic prosperity. But his presidency was not without its challenges. One of his most notable struggles was the impeachment trial in 2019, making him the third president in history to be impeached. His hardline stance on immigration and trade policies also sparked controversy and debate, setting a tone for future policy discussions. Moving on to the 46th president, Joe Biden. Biden stepped into the role during a global pandemic, a challenge in itself. His immediate task was to manage the health crisis while reviving the economy, a tightrope walk that proved to be a significant challenge. Further, the deeply divided political landscape that Biden inherited added another layer of complexity to his presidency. His commitment to rejoin international agreements and his push for more progressive policies have marked a distinct shift from his predecessor, setting a new course for the future of American politics. The challenges faced by both these leaders were not just personal trials, but they were also reflective of the broader societal and political issues at the time. These challenges have shaped the political discourse in America, influencing policy decisions and setting a precedent for future leaders. It's important to note that the challenges faced by any leader are not just hurdles to be overcome. They are opportunities for growth, learning, and setting a course for the future. They are the crucibles in which the character of a leader and the direction of a nation are shaped. The challenges faced by Trump and Biden have set a precedent that will influence the future governance of America. The future is a complex tapestry woven from the threads of the present. As we've traversed through the potential scenarios of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, we've uncovered a myriad of possibilities. The executive branch, where the power of decision-making may evolve, and where the role of the president could be redefined. The legislative branch, a battleground of ideas and policies, where the balance between the Senate and the House of Representatives may shift in unprecedented ways, and the judicial branch, the guardian of the Constitution, where the interpretation of the law could see transformative changes. The Trump versus Biden challenges have highlighted the importance of our engagement in these processes. The future of the U.S. government is not set in stone. It's a dynamic entity, shaped and reshaped by the collective will of its people. Though the future of the U.S. government is uncertain, it is our collective responsibility to shape it for the better.